My name is Rahi Abouk, and I am an associate professor of economics and the director of the Cannabis Research Institute at William Paterson University. Thank you for joining us for the 2022 Spring Roundtable. Our guests today are Mr. Sam Delgado and Charles Barker, Vice Chair and the Commissioner at New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Committee. We will be talking about challenges and considerations in cannabis policy design in New Jersey. As you probably know, today is the first day cannabis retailers are allowed to sell adult use cannabis for those above 21 year of age. So our today's discussion will cover topics related to that as well. So thank you, Sam and Charles, joining us today. I'm very glad to have you both in our campus. So please.
Thank you for having us today, Doctor.
Before Charles and I start, I just want to read a safe harbor statement, and just to say that any comments made by Charles and myself, they're for informational purposes only. It's not an endorsement of any company. It's not an endorsement of any organization or individual or product. So please keep that in mind. We are a regulatory agency, and we do not endorse anything. We provide information for you here during this session. So that's what I have to say. So just real quick, if we could put, I brought one slide, and believe me, it's only one slide. Just want to kind of give you the timeline, because today is an important day. Today is the day that we started recreational sale here in the Garden State. I believe I was informed by my good friend Jesus is in the audience that there are currently 12 locations throughout the state where you can purchase recreational cannabis. I was at the location this morning with Governor Murphy and down in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and I can tell you I arrived early. There were about 50 to 60 individuals lined up already at 7:45. By the time we left at 12:45, there had to be around 200 individuals around the corner waiting to purchase recreational adult use cannabis here in the state. So I think we're off to a great start here in the Garden State. But I want to just start off by using this timeline that's behind me, and I have it in front of me, just to review. So it's important that we do review this, because, you know, when we brought the adult cannabis market to fruition here in the Garden State, you know, we established it. The law was signed, you know, in November, and many individuals, the public, thought that, you know, if it was signed, and I don't know what day it was signed, but say if it was signed on November 10th, they thought that, you know, cannabis would be available on November 11th. And that's not true, because, you know, there are regulatory issues that we had to take care of. We had to make sure that it was safe. So I just want to review the timeline. So in November, we took the voters voted. It was not up until April of 2021, April 12th, I believe.
April 12th.
April 12th of 2021 that the commission was established here in the Garden State. So I first met my good friend Charles on that day.
Yes, sir.
So that's when it was established. According to the regulation, according to the law, we had 180 days to establish the rules and regulation for recreational market here. We had to establish that, and that was done in August of 2021. So, you know, we had to take the law and to transcribe that law and establish regulations. That took a while, and of course, the provisions of the law allowed us those 180 days to establish.
Can I just
absolutely.
Because I think what's very critical about the point Commissioner Delgado just made is that from our understanding, typical regulatory agencies take about 2 years to form and then to develop rules. And so want to really emphasize the point that the commission got started, and right from day one, we have been fast at work. I think that was 6 months. We had those rules promulgated and passed August 19th I believe 2021, and they've been received very well nationally and through other organizations as some of the most equitable rules in the country. And so just want to emphasize that point. Commissioner?
Yeah. And Charles, just because I'm old enough to be your dad, don't worry about it. Just jump on in anytime. Don't worry about it. Don't feel that's a good point that you made. Also on that day, the municipalities, if you live in the Garden State, you understand that it's a local rule state. The municipalities, home rule, and the municipalities govern the state. That was the day that also the municipalities were able to opt in or opt out of the cannabis business in the Garden in their municipalities. So, that day in August, a municipality was either a city, or a township was either pass an ordinance saying that yes, we will allow cannabis business in our town, or no, we won't allow cannabis business in our town. You want to talk about why, if they didn't pass an ordinance on that day, what would happen? You remember?
If a municipality didn't pass an ordinance that day, they were automatically opted in
Right.
to the marketplace. And so
Right.
we've had municipalities take their time and dot their I's, cross their T's to determine when they're ready to open their community for business. We have had many municipalities since August 19th on board and opt in, and we're hopeful that many more in the coming weeks and months will continue to opt in to the marketplace. What I do want to touch on too is something that Commissioner Delgado spoke to when he emphasized the rules. Those rules weren't a product of just our doing, right? There was extensive stakeholder outreach. I mean, with dozens of different national organizations, national regulatory bodies, state organizations, local community organizations, local municipalities. I believe we had over 1,400 hours of meetings, 14 hours of public hearing meetings, taking significant feedback from the public, writing in writing comments. And so there was a host of information, a host of background research, a host of involvement in us producing these rules. And we're very thankful for that. Very new industry. We're going to continue to need these partnerships. We're going to continue to need this input to guide our decision making. But Commissioner, don't want to get lost in April and August, so let's move them on.
No, but that's a good point that you made, Charles, because it's important to understand that we did take, between April and July, we did take public hearings, okay, various public hearings, and that allowed the public input into our rulemaking, all right? And then we took that into consideration, and that was very, very helpful, because what the commission found, there was a lot of questions out there, which we were able to incorporate a lot of those questions into our website, frequently asked questions, but also more importantly, take that into consideration when we were making the rules, all right?
Yes.
So that was key. All right, and by the way, that was part of the statutory process in the law that said we had to take those public hearings, and we will continue to take public hearings, okay, even after the rules were established. So in December, just moving along, December of 2021, license applications open for cultivation.
Let me just stop you right there.
Yep,
because in between August and December, we also expanded the medicinal market, and so I definitely want to emphasize that. Mm-hmm. Patients are a priority for the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, and we wanted to make sure before we move forward with the adult use that we had the necessary and adequate supply. Mm-hmm. And so I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, we
43.
It was 44. I think one rescinded, but there were 10 cultivators, 4 vertically integrated awards, and 30 dispensary awards, where we added significant canopy to the state, and then at the same time we added significant amount of dispensaries to provide that access throughout the state. That was in between the August and December work to continue to expand the adult use marketplace.
Yeah, that was the October and December timeframe where we added those dispensaries and cultivate. And this was for the medical side of the house. All right, a lot of folks, folks in the public, they get confused between the municipal cannabis and the recreational cannabis. This was for the medical cannabis side of the house. All right, we added capacity there, and as Commissioner Barker said, those were both in the cultivating, which was the growth side, and also in the dispensary, which was the retail side. So in December, just getting back to the recreational, in December we opened up the applications for cultivation and testing laboratories. We licensed application. We opened the in March of 2022. We opened the applications for dispensaries, all right, which is the retail stores. And then in April.
Do you want to step back and explain the?
Go ahead.
We also hosted webinars. Mm-hmm. We hosted webinars to explain the application process and how prospective applicants can apply. We also promulgated and published a notice of application acceptance guide on the website. I've been on webinars where I've heard lawyers stand up that guide and say they use that to help them inform their clients. And so there are significant resources that we try to create in an effort to expand the access and make information readily available for anybody that's interested and wants to be a part of the industry. That information, those resources are still online for anybody that is still interested and still wants to enter the marketplace. It is definitely not too late. We're just starting.
Which brings us to April today. Today last week we gave the approval for the existing municipal businesses, ATCs, alternative treatment centers, to expand, all right, into the recreational and adult use market. Okay, that was last week when we gave that permission. Excuse me, the week before. No, it was last Monday.
Next week.
Yeah.
April 11th.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was on vacation that day. But I still worked. Long story short, we approved it on Monday, on April 11th, and hence today, April 21st, was the first day of recreational and adult use cannabis sale. So that brings us up to today.
And
right?
so just to put that all in a nutshell, we have built out a commission from the ground up. We started with about 5, 6, 7 employees. We're up to about 60 employees. We built out different departments within the commission. We've expanded our investigator and compliance department that handles our application processing. We expanded our patient services to take the volume of medicinal concerns and questions. At the same time, we've conducted significant stakeholder outreach. I mean, hours and hours of stakeholder outreach to help inform our rules. We've published rules, 168 pages of some of the most equitable rules in the country. At the same time, we've expanded our medicinal marijuana program in order to anticipate the needs of both the medicinal and recreational market. We've established the adult use industry and opened that up, all while also hosting hearings to see how the tax revenue from this from the cannabis sales will be utilized. We had those hearings at the tail end of February and March. We're in the process of sharing that recommendation memo with the governor and legislature. And at the same time, we continue to accept applications and review them. I think we have over 700 applications in the queue that have been reviewed and are under review. We've issued over 100 conditional licenses. Happy to keep that process going. And so we're definitely looking forward to what the future holds here in New Jersey. But that, in a nutshell, is what we've been doing, Doctor, in the last year. To Commissioner Delgado's point, we were established April 12th, 2021. We're now at April 21st, 2022. And we're going to continue to work.
Yeah. And just to add another data, a factoid, we approved 7 ATCs last week. All right, with I thought it was 13 dispensaries, retail stores, but I'm being told it's 12. And it's a lot of work. I think we accomplished a lot. I think we still have to accomplish more. We still have to get more folks, applicants in the pipeline. So that we can, at the end of that pipeline, have the amount of retail stores, dispensaries out there to meet the marketplace here in New Jersey. I think that's going to be important for us. All the time, all the while, all right, keeping, and I know this is dear to Charles's heart, all right, keeping equity in mind, our philosophy of equity. Our motto at the CRC is safety and equity.
Yes, sir.
And with that equity, I'm going to turn that over to you, Charles.
Oh, absolutely. Would you like me to get into some of our provisions on equity?
Yep, I think that's the focus on social equity is important, and the folks out there need to hear.
Is that all right with you, Doctor?
Just a quick note that our audience on Zoom, if you have any questions, please put that on Q&A chat box, and we'll do our best to respond to that after the meeting today by the commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Okay, happy. So, to Commissioner Delgado's point, the CRC's 2 main principles are safety and equity. Regarding equity, we were very intentional about trying to do as much as we can to make sure applicants, especially those from the hardest hit communities, especially individuals in communities most impacted by the failed war on drugs, not only had a shot, but felt encouraged to apply. And so, for starters, we've eased access into the market. And what I mean by that is there is no deadline to apply. When you are ready to apply, when you have your ducks in a row, you can apply. At the same time, different from the medicinal program and the application process, under that, we also have a pass-fail scoring, right? So there's no real differentiation between individuals and their scoring patterns, right? You either have all the points or none of the points. We've been providing extensive feedback via email. So if applicants have questions, they can email a specific website, a specific email address, and get responses from our staff to inform them.
Yes, there's a dedicated, I don't mean to interrupt, there's a dedicated email address that if you do have a question pertaining to your application, okay, you send it into that specific email address, and that goes directly to our staff in order to reply. And that helps you, that would help the applicant, all right, in completing their application. Go ahead, Charles, I'm sorry.
And we will share that with Dr. Book to put on the Zoom so everybody that's on the webinar has that information. In addition to that, we have, as we touched on earlier, we have resources on the website, right? Our webinars are still on the website. Anybody can go on the website and view any of these webinars, inform themselves. If they have questions based on the webinar, reach out to us. Again, there are lawyers that are using these resources to inform their clients and their practices. And
consultants that are using it.
Yes, exactly, consultants in the same frame. And so we encourage you to definitely utilize these resources, reach out to us. Another part about easing access is the fact that whereas in the medicinal market application process, if there was a deficiency in your application, if there was something missing in your application, that application was voided, right? That application was deemed invalid and put at the bottom. In the adult use marketplace, based on the rules and the framework that the CRC established, applicants have an ability to cure. And so if there is a defect, if there is something missing, if information is incorrect, we are reaching out to the applicant, informing them of the issue and giving them an ability to correct it. When they come back, they get back right into their position in the queue, which segues into the next equity consideration. Let me just touch on this, which is priority access. The CRC was intentional about giving individuals that represent those most harmed, individuals that represent communities most harmed, especially our Black and brown communities. We wanted to be sure that they had a shot. And so we created a social equity business designation. The law allowed for diversely owned businesses and impact zone businesses. Impact zones reflect socially and economically disadvantaged communities. And so if an applicant represents a social equity business designation, a diversely owned business designation, or a impact zone business designation, those are the first applications to be reviewed over all other applications. And so back to that example earlier, if I'm a social equity business applicant, I submit my application, there's something wrong with it, there's an issue, I missed something, I didn't understand something, and I got it wrong, the CRC is going to reach out, inform me of what that issue was. It may take me a month to resolve that. When I submit that application back, maybe in that month, 300, 400 applicants applied. That application still goes right back to its original place. And I think that is something that is critical in terms of providing that access, providing that opportunity. I don't want to bury the lead here. Some of the biggest issues around entry into the cannabis industry, especially for those most harmed, are two primary considerations based on our research: access to capital and mandated site control. A lot of a lot of states required that business applicants already have site control when they apply. That was something we thought about painstakingly. And where we are and what we thought was very creative was the establishment of the conditional license, which is in the law. Through that, the conditional license allows an applicant to apply without needing site control, which is a big, big barrier to entry. And so just removing that piece gives them an ability to enter the industry. To connect to that, the rules also allow an applicant to have up to 7 financial sources and or 5 minority service contractors that may provide professional services or services that the business applicant may need to further develop their business. A conditional applicant can apply, potentially get licensed, and then use that conditional license to leverage more resources, to leverage capital, to leverage site control. And so that is a creative dynamic that we're hoping gives a great opportunity for applicants to get the resources they need if they can't provide them from the outset. And did I miss anything right there?
No, I just want to expand on.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to just 2 things I wanted to expand, and this is good, Charles. We're feeding off each other, which is good. We're riffing off each other, and it's important because what I miss, you get. What you get, we miss, I get. So it's good. So just going back to what Commissioner Barker talked about on curing, and I'm going to give you an example what we mean by curing. In the application process, one of the items in the application process is that, and I've seen this myself. One of the items in the application process is that you have to provide a resume on everybody involved in the business. All right. So if you're the chief financial officer, you have to submit your resume. If you're the CEO, you have to submit your resume. If you're a part owner, you have to submit your resume in the application. Well, lo and behold, people have missed that part. They haven't submitted their resume. All right, and I've seen that personally. So in cases like that, we send a letter back to the applicant telling them, that individual, hey, you have to cure this, okay? You have to submit, you missed the resume, the chief financial officer did not submit their resume, okay? And then that applicant has the opportunity, okay, to submit those resume. We, in the old, with the municipal, prior to this, okay, under the municipal rules, if you hadn't submitted something, all right, you weren't just thrown to the bottom of the barrel, you were just excluded. You couldn't go forward. You couldn't go forward. But now we send you an email, we send you a letter to cure that deficiency, all right, and you're able to submit that resume. So that's yes.
Could you say a word? Maybe people aren't aware. What do you mean by site control? Because you said that many times.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Okay.
Great question. Great question,
That's a good
Doctor.
question. Okay, so actually, there's two parts to that. There's actual municipal consent and site control. Okay, so let me use an example. Okay, and this is where the conditional licenses come in. Okay, two of the greatest impediments for equity candidates, or really any candidate, any applicant, is number one. I'll talk about municipal consent. All right, I mentioned earlier in my talk that New Jersey is a home rule state. Okay, the municipalities have control over what goes on in the municipality. Whether to, they want they're going to allow a cannabis business in their community. Well, part of the regulations, part of the law says that you must, if I am a business and I want to open a cannabis, if I'm an applicant or I'm a businessman, I want to open a cannabis business in a particular municipality, I have to get their consent, all right, in order to open that business in that municipality, okay? That is municipal consent, okay? Municipal consent, municipal approval, however you want to term it. There's different terminologies, however you want to prove. They're interchangeable. So that takes time. That takes time. That could take weeks. That could take months. If anybody knows anything about dealing with municipalities, you have to go through the process of a city ordinance allowing you to operate a cannabis business in that municipality. So with the conditional license, all right, we approve them because the applicant has checked off all the boxes. All right, all the the financial.
Oh, remember, it's an abbreviated checklist that the conditional licensee has to meet.
That's good.
They don't have to meet all of the requirements of the annual license applicant. They get an abbreviated application process that allows them to meet just.
And municipal consent or site control may not be on there. Okay.
No, it's not. Yeah. Let me just get to that, Doctor. Site control is
Talk about site control.
Control over the premises where your business is. Now, that can be through ownership, that can be through a lease agreement, but you can evidence that if you were to be approved, you have control over the terms of the property where you want to be established. That is a hard bar. Even in lease terms, a lot of landlords, especially in anticipation or in understanding the potential cannabis market and the economic value, have increased property values, right? Have increased the price to rent or to buy their lot, right? And so
or land.
Or land, exactly. And so site control has been a major barrier for somebody to come at the outset before they even have a license and put out X amount of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially millions, before they even know where they stand. And so the conditional application process eases that, right?
Allows them time.
Yes.
Because if you've ever negotiated a lease negotiations can take months, weeks, all right? So while you're going through the process, what the conditional license does, it gives you time to get your site control, to negotiate your lease, all right? It gives you time to get that municipal approval or any other deficiency that you may have, okay? So as Commissioner Barker mentioned before, it gives you leverage. Yes, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission has provided a conditional license to this applicant, all right, who still does not have site control, may not have site control, may not have municipal approval, all right? And those are really two of the biggest obstacles.
Yes, and just to add to that, because I did forget something, our fee structure connected to the access to capital piece is the cost to apply, is the cost for the license, is the cost for an approval. If you look at other states, if you look at some municipalities, prices are incredible. And the CRC, we were intentional to make prices very low, very, very reasonable. And so if you look, I think
especially for the micro licenses.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about the micro licenses, what that means?
Micro license, yes.
Since we have a lot of questions to ask, and
okay, we're sharing too much. We got to slow it down.
You don't mind.
There's a lot. There's a lot to this.
Yeah. So the next topic I wanted to touch on was about the legal access. So the minimum legal sales age. So we know that it's 21. So meaning that people under 21 cannot legally purchase cannabis in store from retailers. But the question is how this law is being enforced, and do we have any inspections basically that considered to basically enforce this minimum legal sales age law?
Yeah, you can take it. Yeah, sure.
So to that point, back to
that's a good question, by the way.
One of our department, we have an Office of Compliance and Investigations, and they're responsible for that. So to your point, they will be doing both scheduled and random checks at the dispensaries to make sure that, dispensaries are compliant with the law and that they are not allowing individuals, young adults under 21, any entry or access to the product. The law gives the commission the ability, if we deem necessary, which we may, to send young adults into the store, right, to see if the dispensary would sell to a young adult and bypass their compliance rules. So our investigation team has a lot of authority to enforce compliance, both at the current ATCs that are selling recreational and at the future ATCs that will be onboarded. And so there are protocols into place. Businesses have to provide SOPs to us, standard operating procedures, specific to how they're going to prevent youth access or anybody under the age of 21. And so there are protocols in place, and then the commission has the authority to fine or suspend
licenses,
a license or a business that is not compliant with our rules and regulations. And so there are those measures in the law that provide that enforcement, Doctor.
Yeah. And I can tell you that we have done that already with the 7 alternative treatment centers that we've licensed to expand into the recreational and adult use license. We've already done that. We've sent our 2 weeks ago. We've done a inspection. I know that Jesus here in the audience, he was out there with the team making sure that some of the things, make sure they had proper mechanisms to identify young people under the age of 21, made sure that there's no food being sold in any of the ATCs, made sure that they had the ATCs, the existing ATCs would have a priority for our municipal clients. All right, because we also have priority to make sure that the municipal clients, there's enough medicine there for the municipal clients.
Patients.
Thank you.
Patients.
Thank you. Patients have their medicine. So all that's been done even before the ATC opened today, and we will continue to do that as we go forward, as we expand the market in New Jersey.
Have you had any incidents of a suspension of a license due to not being in compliance with these regulations in New Jersey?
I don't believe so. that I'm aware of. We hope that we don't, but if we have to, we will take action. Again, we want to maintain a safe and equitable marketplace that the citizens of New Jersey can rely on. And so we'll do what we have to do, Doctor.
Yeah, I can tell you there hasn't been a suspension of a license.
So the next question is about the advertising environment. So we know that it's a very controversial topic, and some, especially parents, are concerned about the exposures of their kids to, for example, billboard advertising on cannabis or topics related to cannabis. So could you please explain a little bit about basically what kind of provisions exist in the New Jersey cannabis law, particularly about the advertising and the restrictions around that for cannabis?
Yes, great question, Doctor. So there are restrictions, on content and placement for advertising. So you mentioned billboards. Billboards and signs are allowed. I don't believe they're now allowed near or on the cannabis facility, right? And so a cannabis facility can put their licensed name, but they can't have billboards near or on their facility. Signage is also another big thing, right? There can't be all this cannabis signage and leaves and everything. They have to be very critical. We were very critical about that. Also, there's no advertising.
Games, event, charity.
Yes, there's a very nuanced percentage, but if there's a significant portion, or if there's a reasonable expectation that a significant amount of children will be made aware, there can be no advertising. Whether it's to Commissioner Delgado's point, whether it's a charity event, a game, a performance, a festival, not to bury the lead, but advertisements on TV are restricted between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. That was a big consideration. We got a lot of pushback from stakeholders who, as you can imagine, wanted to provide business advertising.
200 feet before.
We were very adamant about 6 to 10, right? Because we didn't want it to be between the hours where children could be up. Right, we do know some children are still up. Some young teenagers are still studying past the 8 o'clock hour, 9 o'clock hour, 10 o'clock hour. So we were intentional about that. And at the same time, we still have the authority to ensure compliance, right? And so if a business is not compliant, if there is a business that is running afoul of these restrictions, we have a framework in place to fine them and or suspend them. And if we have to take those actions, we very well may.
And just to expand a little bit on Commissioner Barker, we also very restrictive on child-proof packaging. All right.
Yes.
We're very conscious of that, and just reverting back, these were all things, if you recall, we talked about, Commissioner Barker and I talked about, those public hearings that we had between April and July, all right? These were these were the feedbacks, and this is why we had those public hearings, so that the public could express their concerns about issues that, of your type, the question that you had, and we took those issues and those questions very, very seriously.
Absolutely.
And implemented it into our rules and regulations. So I hope that they're pretty tight, all right? And again, it's an evolving thing. Things are going to pop up. It's not perfect. Things will pop up, and we'll address those as they happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Eric, any point you want to?
Yeah, it seems like there are lots of really good things that the commission's done. I mean, I've looked at the law and things, and I think that it'll be interesting to me. I've seen the dispensaries in New York, in Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. They're all very different. Do you guys have anything to say about? I mean, frankly, New York's has just been medical, so their dispensaries look like a doctor's office.
Yes.
Right. And Massachusetts has a fairly professional looking dispensaries, but New Hampshire, even though they have just purely medical, the dispensaries, they have a very different optic to them. They don't look medical. They look like this is just a place where you can buy lots of weed. You know, any thoughts that you guys have about what the image you want the dispensaries to kind of project, the retail
Very fair
facilities?
question. And to that question, and to Commissioner Delgado's point, there was significant public input about that. Even on the packaging, a lot of businesses that wanted to maintain their creative branding opportunities and marketability. And we had to balance that against the protections of the children and the youth and the image that we wanted to create. So to your point, I see it as an evolution to come, right? I think at the outset, I would err on the side of caution and be more okay with setups that don't necessarily encourage more recreational type activity. But as the industry evolves, I think as the industry is more educated, I think as New Jerseyans become more educated about cannabis and more accepting, I'm open to the cannabis business expanding. And again, as long as a business is compliant with the rules and the regs, we want them to feel comfortable designing it how they want to design it. As long as it's compliant, we're okay with that. Now, if you are if it looks like or feels like this business is attracting children or is an attractive nuisance to children, that may be something different. But if it's done responsibly, if it's done in compliance with the law, but it's a creative business framework and setup, I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah, I have to say, just expanding again, I use that word expanding on Commissioner Barker's statement. I have to say that the existing ATCs with their dispensaries have been very, very responsible. We've done site visits. Commissioner Barker and myself, we've done site visits to these dispensaries, and I encourage the public to go to their websites and see. They have websites that you can go in and you can visually see what their dispensaries look like. Very high end, and very upscale. So I walked into one. I wouldn't think it was a cannabis dispensary at all, So they've been very responsible and very receptive. So.
And can I ask to follow up on some of the things you said, and this might be a little outside of your areas.
Okay.
So just as the commissioners, I mean, what do you foresee anything about the economic impact on the state, the growth of this? Because you are overseeing a business. I mean, it's going to be is it going to be a large industry? I mean, what is the?
We hope so. I mean, we hope so. You read the projections. They anticipate a few billions of dollars within a couple years, just here in New Jersey alone. Nationally, I think estimates are anywhere from $40 to $60 billion by 2025. They're talking about hundreds of thousands of jobs already being added and hundreds of thousands of jobs to come. And so when you think about economies of scale, there's great opportunity, right? You have just direct plant-touching opportunities that are creating potential generational wealth opportunities for a lot of people, and we hope for those who were most harmed by the failed war on drugs. But to your point about the outlook and the potential, when you think about ancillary businesses that don't even touch the plant, there's a whole host of other economics that come with that, right? We have facilities that need construction build-outs, right? So as a state, that's a whole host of opportunities for the construction industry. At the same time, locally, a municipality can think through how do we try to identify our local contractors to make them, to get them in the game for local build-outs within our areas, right? And that's just construction. You have plumbing, you have utility services, you have HVAC, you have tourism. We have a very strong tourism hub here in New Jersey, whether you're talking about our Jersey Shore, you're talking about, Atlantic City. And so to your point, we touch on Pennsylvania and New York. We anticipate plenty tourism. Marketing, branding, security. These are all different opportunities, legal, professional services. I mean, we can keep going. And so when you say potential economies of scale, we get excited because the potential is there. I think for us, it's about really making sure those who are most harmed get to benefit, right? This should not be as it's been. We should be really doing better as we go forward. Hopefully in New Jersey, we can set that example.
Yeah. I'm not going to speculate on how, I'll leave that to the economists to speculate on how big this is going to be. I mean, I've seen projections of over, 1.9 billion for the region. So, the proof will be in the pudding. See how healthy this market will be. And, there's only so much income out there, right? Especially with the inflation going on right now. Disposable income out there. So, we'll see. Ask me that question five or 6 years from now.
Well, can I ask, can I continue this line just
Sure.
one more?
Okay.
As you've seen in Colorado and California, a number, there's dispensaries, and of course there's the medical side. But there are just, other sales facilities. But they've also branched out into other, like, I'm thinking of restaurants that do, cooking with cannabis and things
Yes.
like that. And that's, not exactly a dispensary sort of situation
Yes.
or ATC, treatment center or things like that. But are there thoughts about that kind of evolving? And I don't know how.
There are thoughts. I can answer that. There are thoughts. I don't know that we're there yet, but again,
Right.
we still have to. We are working towards getting there. So I wouldn't say that that's we're thinking about it. When the time is right and we start to open up those avenues, they'll be available. But it is a good point to see for the future, right? Where restaurants, again, as it's more accepting, as we understand it more, people will then be more receptive to those opportunities. But it's happening.
Yeah.
Right, it's happening, and the business model is there.
Yeah. That's going to be a legislative issue.
Sure.
Okay. Currently, you can't serve food in an existing cannabis retail environment. So that's going to be a legislative, a public policy issue that's going to evolve. All right. Right now, we as a regulatory agency, we regulate what the law is now. When that happens, then we'll get to it. But that right now, our main concern is safety and equity, and getting the marketplace out.
So I just wanted to add something about the economic impact based on the research that we have done in our center. So the interesting thing about the cannabis landscape is that it could have impact on both sides of the market, supply side of labor forces and also the demand side, the demand for new labor force actually. So the supply of labor would go up by several factors, such as one of the most important factors could be the people substituting cannabis with opioids to treat pain, for pain management. We know that the opioid have an adverse impact on labor market participation. So when it's being substituted with cannabis, so there might be some improvement as there are not that large side effects with cannabis compared to opioids. Another thing is that it creates a lot of job opportunities, especially in agriculture, for example, and other industries. And I've done some research on this topic. So, for example, another sector that experienced an increase in employment was mining. And it's interesting because, again, that goes back to the topic of pain medication, because we have some new ways to basically treat our pain. So therefore, the people working in this industry and sector could basically supply more in that area.
And so and you make a great point there, Doctor. Even to the remarks you just said, there are even more opportunities out there to provide economic opportunity and workforce development. I think what's critical for us is to ensure that equity rings through all facets of that deliberative process.
I don't know if I have. I know I don't have the expertise to comment on that. I'll be happy to read your research. Send it to me, please. I don't have the expertise, but I can tell you this: there are opportunities out there that we don't even know about yet, right? That will come up in the future that we don't even know about. So, the future, I think, here is, it's exciting. certainly the state is looking to, receive those tax revenues so that we can implement all those aspirational goals that are that are so important to Charles and that are in the law and the regulation. And so we're looking forward to that. So I think the future is good. Time will tell. All right. And, the CRC will be here and we will evolve and we will change. And, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to happen overnight. But we look forward. The cup is half full, not half empty.
Since you mentioned the topic on taxes, so that would be nice if we can have some information about how this product is being taxed in the state of New Jersey and compared to other states, if you know about those other states. And there are maybe different type of taxation or different kind of ways we can tax this product per amount, per percentage of THC, and per total amount of spent on the topic. For example, 20% tax, like general sales tax. So explain a little bit about how it's taxed and if there's any flexibility by municipality to add some additional tax to the state tax on cannabis products.
Absolutely. So to answer a few of your questions, compared to other states, New Jersey is the taxes in New Jersey are very reasonable. I encourage anybody to stand the New Jersey tax structure up against any other state tax structure on cannabis. I think you'll see we're in a great position. Essentially, we have a standard tax by price, which is similar to a sales tax. That, Doctor, is a state tax of 6.625%. We also have, creatively, a tax by weight. There's not a tax by weight, an excise fee by weight. And so the excise fee is 1/3 of 1%, and that is on the average, let me rephrase it, for the first 9 months, it's on the average retail price per ounce of cannabis. After that, the CRC has a discretion to increase that tax or decrease it depending on the cost of cannabis. A lot of economists or tax experts that research this, especially at least in the cannabis industry, forward-looking, are supportive of a tax by weight structure because it gives you the flexibility as price drops to maintain a sustainable tax base. So we have that in place. And then to your point about the municipalities, municipalities can enact an ordinance that allows them up to 2% tax for cannabis cultivators, cannabis manufacturers, and cannabis retailers, and they can charge up to 1% on cannabis wholesalers. You add up all these taxes, we're still hovering around 10% taxes in total. Some states start their state tax at 10% or above, and then have all these other additional taxes. So again, I definitely...
So we're very competitive.
Absolutely.
And also remind the professor that the municipal tax is going away.
Another thing, specific to our medicinal market, the medicinal sales tax will sunset. It will go away as of July 1st, 2022. So that's another prong.
It's currently what, at 2% right now?
I believe so. It's currently at 2%, but
it's gone down from the 6%.
Yes, and so that's essentially the tax structure that we have here in New Jersey, and we are confident that it will be competitive against other states.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just remind me again of what's the nature of the tax structure now between the medical and the adult use. I mean, I know, for instance, Massachusetts, if you're medical, you don't have to pay a whole range of taxes. So just
go ahead.
Well, right now for the public, it's 2%.
Right.
For medical.
For medical.
For medical, that's right.
And the state tax is going to be
6.625%.
Right. So it's that discount essentially.
For the, so now that's going to be sunset. The municipal tax is going away. Sunset. Yeah. It's going to go away.
As of July, I believe July 1st, 2022, patients will not pay tax. The adult use market, you'll still pay the 6.625%. You'll pay the 1/3 of 1%. But depending on what municipality you're in, if they enact an ordinance to, to tax you their municipal tax, you'll pay that too.
So, the municipal tax going away is in the spirit of caring for those patients.
Absolutely, equity.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So that's what that's about.
Yeah.
So
Is that 6% tax on top of the sales, New Jersey
the
sales tax, or it's just
that is the sales tax.
That is it.
Got it.
So it's not on top. So,
So-
it's very competitive
Yeah.
compared to
And
other states.
We can look at this issue from another angle, and that's the basically competitiveness compared to illicit market. Because whenever we charge higher taxes, that's always it's very risky, because then the illicit market would be able to offer kind of similar product at a much lower price, and this way we are not going to have a very strong legal market for cannabis. So this decision about the tax rate is a very crucial and important decision, and states that charge higher taxes, if they don't have any specific plan and they just want to generate revenue, at the end of the day, they won't be able to generate enough revenue,
Yes.
and they would strengthen their illicit market in their own state.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, there's research and articles that support that in states where tax structure is high, the illicit market is very prevalent, because to your point, it creates just prices people out.
There's research, there's economic research, and I've read it from different economists, that the top two considerations for the public when they're purchasing cannabis. Number one is potency. Number two is price. The higher the price, the more liable. The higher the legal price, the more liable the public will go to stay in the illicit market. Okay, so you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And another important provision of New Jersey's law about cannabis is that the home cultivation is basically not an option, and New Jersey people cannot cultivate this product at home. They have to buy it from retailers. So could you basically elaborate on this, why this is a provision, part of the law, and what was the considerations and factors that have been considered by lawmakers or the commission?
Well, again, that's a question that we get all the time, right? When is the commission going to allow homegrown? Again, it's a legislative issue, all right? If you're, what I have to say to the public, if you want homegrown, pick up the phone and call your state legislator, right? Right?
No,
It's simple as that. That's until that the law gets amended to allow homegrown, whatever that is. And there's philosophies all over the place. Charles has a philosophy. I have a philosophy on it. It's up to the
It's a legislative act.
Right.
We need legislative help here, and at this, we've done the research. There are states that have developed and morphed their home cultivation based on the research that they've done. And so we see states that did allow home grow, an exorbitant amount of plants, restricted it, right? And in restricting the amount of plants an individual can cultivate at home, they see that the concerns they had about diversion to illicit activity is not as prevalent as they thought. And so we're hoping that the research that guides these decisions, again, to Commissioner Delgado's point, we absolutely need the legislature to weigh in here. And we hope that they do, because this is very important. It's something that we hear every meeting from the patient community. This is a major concern for them. This is an equity issue. And so we hope that, there are a handful of bills, I believe, already in the legislature. And so we hope that, those are revisited, and especially for our patients, right? We understand the evolution to allowing every individual of age in the state of New Jersey to be able to cultivate a responsible amount. our patients, though, that really need it, especially as we're onboarding adult use sales. We hope that the legislature is really thinking about this intently, because it will be a major help to the industry and especially to the patient community.
So here's the bottom line. There's two roads. It's either homegrown is either going to become legal, or it's not going to become legal in the short term. I mean, that's the way I see it.
One interesting way to look at it is to basically see other substances. For example, alcohol. Is it legal for us to make our own beer at home? If that kind of basically consideration might help us in basically shaping the kind of cultivation culture. So another important thing is that...
to your point, I don't mean to interrupt, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's legal to make a certain amount of wine at home and a certain amount of beer home brew. Yeah. But look how long it took for that to happen.
Exactly. So economically, it doesn't make sense for me to do it myself, so I prefer to buy it from liquor store or, for example, those stores that provide this sort. So I guess eventually we should get to that.
I think maybe outside of red wine, I think the dynamic here is that if I'm cultivating, to your example, if I'm cultivating beer, it's probably for my enjoyment. And doctor, we can talk about philosophy here, the intent and purpose. Cultivation for medicinal patients, the purpose and the intent is for their wellness and their medicinal benefit, right? And so it's not for just their casual enjoyment. They hopefully will be cultivating in an effort to have their medicine readily accessible and in a manner and in a way that's conducive to their condition. And so I think there is some nuance there, right? I don't know that alcohol has those medicinal benefits and medicinal properties in the same way that cannabis does.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point. I mean, there has been research from, early adoption states, California, Colorado, Washington, that one of the things that legalization did, even adult use legalization, was greatly expanded the medical market. And particularly something, I'm interested in, it's older people. I mean, they actually end up being some of the largest consumers of cannabis mainly for treating pain, pain, insomnia, and a number of the other conditions that as we get older, we experience. And so, yeah, the growing is an interesting side there, where they were saying, look, I need, and elderly folks are often on fixed incomes, right, Social Security or whatever, and so there will be, I'm kind of interested when you said equity too about that maybe shifts it a little. The senior citizens of New Jersey and things like that. What are the thoughts about that?
So,
it's kind of two questions.
I kind of want to close this with this statement, because I have a hard stop at 3:45, but to go on another panel. I would say this. I think that if you want homegrown, all right, I think it's incumbent on those homegrown advocates to convince enough legislators, to convince leadership in the state legislature, both the Senate and the Assembly side, to move forward and do that. We as commissioners, we have, we're not advocate, we can't advocate either way, but I would say it's incumbent on those advocates to do that, and that would be the message for us to your public.
Thank you. So, Eric, anything to add?
I would just follow up with I kind of asked two questions, and it is, to my mind, an equity question too. How do the elderly figure in to these kinds of policies?
The elderly are very important, and it's a important consideration, right? To your point, and I know this from my personal experience with the elderly people in my life, right? Mobility becomes an issue, right? Getting around becomes an issue. And so those factors weigh into the ability to have the medicine that you need, right? And so we are considering it. To Commissioner Delgado's point, we can't make the decision. It doesn't rest with the CRC, unfortunately. But at the same time, if enough momentum is galvanized, I do think we can move forward on this, because the elderly are not dismissed here. And to your point about the elderly being not only supporters, but very interested and active in the cannabis marketplace, it's something that is very important to consider on their behalf.
I can't tell you that, again, we've had discussions with AARP.
Right, sure.
That we consider them one of our stakeholders.
Oh, absolutely.
And if they want to continue, if they want to come back and have further discussions with AARP, we're open to hear, what they have to say, and we're open to hear what input they have, what recommendations we have, what's good, what's bad, and they are one of our stakeholders, and they're a key stakeholder. AARP is a key stakeholder in the state. It's a stake, and they're a key stakeholder for the Cannabis Regulatory Commission.
Very good.
And the last question I wanted to ask today is about the role that higher education institution could play in this environment. So we are in a new environment that probably we don't know a lot of stuff about, the policy implication, the consequence. The question is how higher education institutions like William Paterson University could play a role in providing a more secure environment for basically releasing this product in the society or in the market for users.
Oh, a great question, Doctor. I believe the university can play a critical role. And I'll use William Paterson specifically. The university is already an anchor institution, right? Strategically positioned around one of the hardest hit communities by the failed war on drugs. Generally speaking, an institution has the ability not only to nurture a young adult's understanding of the real world, but then also put them in a position to use that knowledge to then have a career that is economically sustainable and provides them with the ability to take care of their family and be a productive member of society. Layer on cannabis, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry just at its precipice. When we talk about educating and nurturing that understanding, the university has a critical role, if they take it on, in informing the future generations what is cannabis, and making sure that they don't understand the stigmatized version that is represented, but the true history of cannabis, the culture, and what it really means. I think that is critical. And then when we talk about the different dynamics that the university can do for workforce development, for training, we talked about the certificate program already. We talked about how the universities can be play a critical role in training some of the business workforces. That is a requirement. The university, we have clinical registrants that are going to be, we have a clinical registrant application process in the law. We haven't developed it yet, but when we do, universities will be able to apply for research or licenses to do research on cannabis. And so I think there's a host of opportunity here, not only at William Paterson, but across the state, for universities to really see themselves as anchor institutions that can not only nurture the next wave of future leaders, but can develop a pure understanding of what cannabis really is.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
if you have any point you want to mention at the end of the roundtable, please go ahead. Otherwise,
Yeah,
thanks.
before I just have one point, and I kind of end this. It's always my last point when I have these kinds of discussions, and that's to the public and to yourself, the institution, and everything like that. I highly recommend that if you are interested and you want to find out more about the cannabis market here in New Jersey, that you go to our website. The Cannabis Regulatory Commission website. It's filled with a lot of information, and I think the number one thing that the public can do, all right, and is read our regulations, and understand our regulations. Okay, I think it's they're long, but it's not a hard read. We have a summary of those regulations on the website. But if you want to educate yourself on it, because we get questions all the time, all right? And that's part of our role. That's part of Charles and my role, is to go out there and, educate, answer these questions like we had today, and educate the public. And we're going to continue to do that. But if you're interested, I say to the general public, the folks out there on this call that are interested, go to the website and read the regulations. Download the regulations. If you have a question, do a word search on the Microsoft Word search on the regulations. There's the fee structure there. There's information on conditional licenses there. There's all sorts of really good information, and I think that's key. If there's one takeaway that you come from this period of instruction or this panel is to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Commissioner Delgado summed it up very well. I would say thank you to Dr. Abuk, thank you to Dr. Steinhardt, thank you to the university for having us. It's always a pleasure to talk about what we do and try to inform the public as much as we can. We're still very early in this, and stay with us, stay encouraged. You will see that we are working hard to provide an equitable and safe marketplace here in New Jersey. And so with that, again, I'm going to say thank you and wish everybody a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. This would be recorded and would be placed on the CRI website, and you'll be able to access that by the beginning of the next week. So thanks for being with us. Have a good day.
Yep.
No questions?
No, I think you've got to go, right?